Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to explore the fascinating world of algae. Our presentation is titled Algae, Photosynthetic Eukaryotic Organisms. Over the next few slides, we'll cover their characteristics, habitats, structures, and reproductive methods. So let's dive into understanding these incredible organisms that play vital roles in aquatic ecosystems. Today, we're going to take a closer look at the morphology of an algal cell. When we talk about morphology, we're referring to the structure and form of the cell itself. Understanding the key features of an algal cell helps us grasp how these organisms function and adapt to their environments. First, you'll notice that algal cells come in a variety of shapes and sizes, which is quite fascinating because it reflects their diversity and ecological roles. Some are unicellular, meaning they consist of a single cell, while others form colonies or filaments. Within the cell, you'll find several important components. The cell wall provides structure and protection. Think of it as the cell's armor. The plasma membrane just inside it controls what enters and exits, maintaining the cell's internal environment. The nucleus is crucial because it contains the genetic material, guiding all cellular activities. Surrounding the nucleus is the cytoplasm, a gel-like substance where many metabolic processes occur. Algae also have chloroplasts, which are the sites of photosynthesis, the process that allows them to convert sunlight into energy. These chloroplasts are often a defining feature, giving algae their green color, although they can vary. Other structures include storage products like starch, which serve as energy reserves, and sometimes flagella or other appendages that enable movement. Overall, understanding these cellular features helps us appreciate how algae thrive in diverse environments and contribute to ecosystems. Each structural component has a specific role that supports their survival and ecological function. Algae are generally classified based on several key characteristics that help us understand their diversity and behavior. First, we look at the chemical and physical features of their cell walls. These differences can tell us a lot about their evolutionary relationships and their adaptations to different environments. Next, we consider the nature and properties of the pigments they contain, especially those involved in photosynthesis. These pigments not only give algae their characteristic colors, but also influence how efficiently they can capture light energy. We also examine the morphological characteristics of their cells and thalli, which are the body structures of algae. This helps us distinguish between different types, whether they have simple filaments or more complex, branched forms. Habitat is another important factor, where these algae live, whether in freshwater, marine environments, or even on moist surfaces. Their habitat often influences their structure and physiology. Lastly, for motile algae, we look at the number of flagella and where they are inserted in the cells. This feature is crucial for understanding how they move and interact with their environment. And finally, reproductive behavior plays a significant role in classification, as different groups have distinct reproductive strategies that affect their life cycles and evolution. All these characteristics together give us a comprehensive way to classify and study algae within the broader context of aquatic ecosystems. Today, I want to talk about one of the most well-known classifications of algae, which was proposed by Fritsch in 1945. He organized algae into 11 distinct classes. The basis for this classification mainly revolves around three key features: pigments, flagella, and reserve food materials. These characteristics help us understand the diversity and relationships among different algal groups. Fritsch's 11 classes include chlorophyceae, which are the green algae, and xanthophyceae, the yellow-green ones. Then there's chrysophyceae, known for their golden pigments, and bacillariophyceae, which are the diatoms with their unique silica cell walls. Cryptophyceae is another class, often with complex pigments. Dinophyceae or dinoflagellates are notable for their flagella and their role in marine ecosystems. Moving on, we have chloromonidinae, euglenidae, which include some mix of plant-like and animal-like features. Then there's phaeophyceae, the brown algae, and rhodophyceae, the red algae, both important in aquatic habitats. Lastly, myxophyceae, which are commonly known as blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. All these classes show how diverse algae are, and Fritsch's classification helps us organize this diversity based on their pigmentation, movement structures, and stored food. This framework is fundamental as we explore their biology, ecology, and evolutionary relationships throughout this course. Let's take a closer look at the class Chlorophyceae, commonly known as green algae. This group includes around 360 genera and approximately 5,000 species, making it quite diverse. Most of these algae are found in freshwater environments, though a few species can be found in marine habitats as well. When it comes to pigments, the dominant ones are chlorophyll A and B, which give these algae their characteristic green color. They also contain carotenoids, which are yellow pigments that can be important for photosynthesis and protection against light damage. As for their reserve food, they store energy mainly as starch, which is similar to what we see in plants. Structurally, these algae can be unicellular or form filaments that are motile or heterotrochous, meaning they have different types of cells within the same filament. Their cell walls are made of cellulose, providing rigidity and protection. An interesting feature is the presence of pyrenoids, which are often surrounded by a starch sheath. These are involved in storing and synthesizing starch. The motile cells typically have equal flagella, usually 2 to 4, and are classified as isoconti, meaning their flagella are similar in size and appearance. Reproductively, they have a range of sexual methods, from isogamous, where gametes are similar, to more advanced oogamous types, involving a large, non-motile egg and motile sperm. Some well-known examples of this group include Chlamydomonas, Volvox, Chlorella, Cenodesmus, and Pediastrum, each illustrating different aspects of their diversity and adaptations. Understanding these features helps us appreciate how green algae fit into the broader picture of aquatic ecosystems and their evolutionary significance. Now, let's take a closer look at the class Xanthophyceae, commonly known as yellow-green algae. There are about 75 genera and around 675 species within this group. Most of these algae are found in freshwater environments, though a few species do inhabit marine waters, highlighting their versatile ecological presence. One of the most distinctive features of these algae is their pigments. They contain abundant yellow xanthophyll pigments, which give them their characteristic color. This pigmentation plays a role in their photosynthetic process, helping them capture light efficiently. In terms of storage, they primarily store reserve food in the form of oil. This is quite important because it allows them to store energy efficiently, especially in fluctuating environmental conditions. Structurally, Xanthophyceae can be unicellular or form simple filamentous structures. The cells are motile, meaning they can move, and their cell wall is rich in pectic compounds. Interestingly, their cell walls are made up of 2 equal pieces that overlap at the edges, which is a unique feature. The motile cells have 2 flagella, but these are often very unequal in size, which is quite characteristic of this group. Unlike some other algae, they lack pyrenoids, which are usually involved in starch formation. When it comes to reproduction, sexual reproduction is quite rare in Xanthophyceae, and when it does occur, it is always isogamous, meaning the gametes are similar in size and shape. An example of this class is Vaucheria, which helps us visualize the typical features and structure of these algae. So, in summary, Xanthophyceae are fascinating mainly because of their unique pigments, cell structure, and reproductive strategies, all of which fit into the larger picture of algal diversity and adaptation. Let's take a closer look at the class Chrysophyceae, which includes around 200 genera and roughly 1,000 species. Most of these organisms are found in cold freshwater environments, although a few species are marine. This adaptation to cold waters is quite interesting and highlights their ecological niche. When it comes to pigments, they contain chromatophores that are typically brown or orange in color. A key pigment here is phycochrysin, which acts as the main accessory pigment, aiding in photosynthesis. This pigment composition helps them absorb specific wavelengths of light, which is crucial for their survival and energy production. As for their food reserve, they store fats and leucocin, which serve as energy reserves during periods when photosynthesis isn't sufficient or conditions are unfavorable. Structurally, these organisms are quite diverse. They can be unicellular and motile, or they can form branched filamentous structures. They have flagella that are unequal in length and are attached at the front end, which helps in movement. Typically, their cells contain one or two parietal chromatophores positioned along the cell wall. Reproduction in chrysophyceae is mostly asexual, and sexual reproduction is rare. When it does occur, it's usually of the isogamous type, meaning the gametes are similar in size and form. Examples of organisms in this class include Chrysocapsa, Laginian, Acromonas, and Chrysamoeba. Recognizing these key features helps us understand their role in aquatic ecosystems and their evolutionary significance within the broader group of algae. Now let's move on to slide 8, which focuses on the class Bacillariophyceae, commonly known as diatoms. These fascinating organisms comprise around 170 genera and approximately 5,300 species, highlighting their diversity and ecological importance. They are incredibly versatile, occurring in almost all types of habitats: freshwater, marine environments, soil, and terrestrial habitats, showing how adaptable they are. One of their distinctive features is their pigmentation. They contain chromatophores that are yellow or golden brown, giving them that characteristic color. However, the nature of their accessory pigments isn't fully understood, which adds an element of mystery to their biology. Diatoms store food primarily as fats and volutin, which help them survive in various environmental conditions. Structurally, they are either unicellular or form colonies. Their cell walls are quite unique. They are partly made of silica, which makes them very durable, and partly of pectic substances. The cell wall is composed of two halves, each often with multiple pieces, and is richly ornamented, giving diatoms their beautiful, intricate appearances. When it comes to reproduction, diatoms are diploid and reproduce sexually through a special process involving the fusion of protoplasts from individual cells. This process is quite distinctive among algae, adding to their biological interest. Some common examples of diatoms include Pinularia, Cyclotella, Thalassiacera, Navicula, and Nitschia. These genera are well studied and serve as important indicators of environmental conditions, as well as being vital components of aquatic food webs. Understanding diatoms helps us appreciate their ecological roles and the complexity of the phytoplankton community as a whole. Let's take a closer look at the class Cryptophyceae. This group includes about 20 genera and roughly 200 species, so it's quite diverse. You'll find these organisms in both marine environments and freshwater habitats, which shows their adaptability. One of their interesting features is their pigments. Their chromatophores exhibit a variety of colors, often shades of brown. These chromatophores are usually situated near the cell's periphery, giving them a characteristic parietal placement. When it comes to their food reserves, they store solid carbohydrates, sometimes in the form of starch, which helps them sustain themselves. Structurally, these organisms can be motile, with most advanced forms being coccoid in shape. Their flagella are slightly unequal, aiding in movement. Reproductively, they are isogamous, meaning that the gametes involved in reproduction are similar in size and shape, which is quite common among many protists. Some notable examples of Cryptophyceae include Chromonas, Plagiosulmus, Falcomonas, Rhinomonas, Teleolax, and Chilomonas. These examples help us understand the diversity and specific features within this group. Overall, Cryptophyceae are fascinating because of their pigment diversity, adaptability to different environments, and unique structural features, which all tie into our broader understanding of protist diversity and ecology. Let's take a closer look at the class Dinophyceae, which includes around 130 genera and approximately 2,000 species. These plants are quite widespread, primarily occurring as plankton in seawater, although a few can be found in freshwater environments. One of their distinctive features is the presence of chromophores. These are pigments that give them dark yellow, brown, or other colors, and they contain a variety of special pigments that help with processes like photosynthesis. In terms of their energy reserves, they store food mainly as starch and oil, which is quite common among phytoplankton. Structurally, these plants are unicellular and motile, meaning they can move around, and some species form branched filamentous structures. Reproduction in Dinophyceae is mostly sexual and occurs through an isogamous process, where the gametes are similar in form. However, this type of reproduction is relatively rare and not always well-defined within the group. Some notable examples you might come across include dinoflagellates like Serradium, Alexandrium, Dinophysis, Gymnodinium, Paradinium, Polycricos, Noctiluca, and Goniolax. These organisms play significant roles in marine ecosystems, especially in phenomena like red tides and bioluminescence, which ties back to the overall theme of their ecological importance. The algae classified under this family are typically known as dark yellow to brown algae. These are commonly referred to as seawater planktons, which highlights their presence in marine environments. They can be free-living, meaning they float around independently, or they can form symbiotic relationships with other organisms, or even act as parasites in some cases. When it comes to their stored food reserves, they mainly store starch and oil, which serve as energy sources. One distinctive feature is their nucleus. It's quite characteristic because it contains condensed and banded chromosomes, making it easier to identify under a microscope. Additionally, the motile phases of these algae have two different types of flagella, which aid in movement. Understanding these features helps us appreciate how these algae adapt to and thrive in their aquatic habitats, connecting to the bigger picture of their ecological roles. Let's take a closer look at the class Chloromonidinae. This group includes about 855 genera and around 7,350 species worldwide, with a significant number found in India. All of these plants are freshwater forms, which means they thrive in ponds, lakes, and similar aquatic environments. One of their distinctive features is their bright green chromatophores, which contain an excess of xanthophyll pigments, giving them that vibrant color. When it comes to their nutrition, these plants store energy in the form of oil, which acts as their reserve food. Structurally, they are motile, meaning they can move around, and they are flagellate, possessing two nearly identical flagella that enable their movement through water. An example of a plant in this group is Vacuolaria. Overall, these features, bright green pigments, freshwater habitat, motility, and oil reserves, are key to understanding the unique adaptations of Chloromonidinae within the broader context of aquatic plant diversity. Let's take a closer look at the class Euglenidae. These organisms are found exclusively in freshwater environments, so you won't find them in marine or terrestrial habitats. One of their distinctive features is their pigmentation. The chromatophores are a pure green color, and each cell contains several of these chromatophores, giving them a characteristic green appearance. This green pigment is mainly due to chloroplasts, which are essential for photosynthesis. In terms of their food reserves, Euglenidae store energy in the form of polysaccharides, specifically a substance called paramylin, which is unique to them. Structurally, they are motile flagellates, meaning they can move around using flagella. These flagella can be one or two in number and usually emerge from a base located within a canal-like invagination at the front of the cell. They also have a complex vacuolar system and a large, prominent nucleus, which supports their metabolic activities and cellular functions. Regarding reproduction, sexual methods are not well understood, but it is believed that they reproduce through an isogamous type, meaning the gametes are similar in size and form. An example of this class is Euglena, which is quite well known and often studied in laboratories. Euglena is a fascinating organism because it exhibits both plant-like and animal-like characteristics, making it a perfect representative of Euglenidae. Let's take a closer look at the class Phaeophyceae, commonly known as brown algae. This group includes about 195 genera and roughly 1,000 species, primarily found in marine environments. They are predominantly marine organisms, thriving in saltwater habitats. When it comes to pigments, brown algae contain chlorophyll A and C, as well as carotenoids like xanthophylls, but notably, they lack chlorophyll. These pigments are essential for photosynthesis and give the algae their characteristic brown coloration. In terms of food reserves, they store mannitol, which is a sugar alcohol, along with laminarin and fats. These stored substances serve as energy reserves, supporting their growth and reproduction. Structurally, brown algae can vary widely. Some are simple filamentous forms, while others are more complex, bulky, parenchymatous structures. Interestingly, some species can grow to enormous sizes, with internal and external differentiation that allows for specialized functions within the plant. Reproductively, they exhibit a range of sexual reproduction types, from isogamous, where gametes are similar, to oogamous, which involves distinct female and male gametes. Their motile gametes typically have two laterally attached flagella, aiding in movement. Additionally, they display various types of alternation of generations, which adds to their reproductive complexity. Examples of brown algae include familiar names like sargassum, laminaria, macrocystes, nereocystes, pelvicia, and others like ectocarpus. These species highlight the diversity within this group and their significance in marine ecosystems. Overall, brown algae are fascinating not only because of their ecological roles, but also due to their structural diversity and reproductive strategies, which tie into the broader themes we've been exploring about marine plant groups. Now let's take a closer look at the class Rhodophyceae, commonly known as red algae. There are about 400 genera and around 2,500 species within this group. These algae are quite versatile in their habitats, with some species thriving in freshwater environments, while others are found exclusively in marine settings. When it comes to pigments, red algae are fascinating because they contain unique chromophores. These include red phycoerythrin and blue phycocyanin, which give them their distinctive color. In addition, they have chlorophyll A and D, along with carotene pigments, which play essential roles in photosynthesis. Their food reserve is stored as Floridian starch, which is a type of carbohydrate that helps them survive in various conditions. Structurally, red algae can range from simple filamentous forms to quite complex and elaborate structures. Interestingly, they do not have motile structures, meaning they don't have flagella or similar features for movement. Reproductively, red algae exhibit a highly developed sexual reproduction process, known as oogamy. The male gametes are non-motile, and the female organ features a long receptive neck, which facilitates fertilization. After the sexual process, they produce special spores called carpospores, which help in dispersal and reproduction. Some examples of this class include Batrachospermum and Polysiphonia. Overall, Rhodophyceae are remarkable for their pigments, structural diversity, and reproductive strategies, which all contribute to their success in aquatic ecosystems. Now let's take a closer look at the class Myxophyceae, also known as Cyanophyceae or blue-green algae. This group includes around 150 genera and approximately 1,500 species, showcasing quite a diversity. They are quite versatile in where they can be found, thriving in both sea and freshwater environments, which highlights their adaptability. When it comes to pigments, these organisms contain chlorophyll, just like plants, but also carotenes, xanthophylls, and special pigments called phycocyanin and phycoerythrin. The ratio of these last two pigments can vary, which often results in the characteristic blue-green coloration we associate with them. In terms of food reserves, they store sugars and glycogen, providing energy for their metabolic processes. Structurally, they can be as simple as single cells or form filamentous structures. Some filamentous forms even show false or true branching, which adds to their structural diversity. Their cells have a very rudimentary nucleus, and unlike plants, they lack proper chromatophores. Instead, their photosynthetic pigments are diffused throughout their periphery, giving them a unique cellular organization. It's also important to note that they do not have motile stages, meaning they don't move actively like some other microorganisms. Reproduction occurs without sexual means, so no sexual reproduction is involved. Instead, they reproduce mainly through asexual methods. Some common examples of this class include Oscillatoria and Nostoc. Understanding these features helps us appreciate how cyanobacteria fit into the broader picture of microbial life and their ecological importance. Thank you all for your time and attention today. I really appreciate your engagement and interest in this topic. It's been great to share these insights with you. Remember, the key points we've discussed are crucial for understanding the bigger picture and applying these concepts effectively. I hope this presentation has provided clarity and inspiration for your work. Once again, thank you so much for being here and for your commitment to continuous learning.